I love Spain, one of my faves. So whenever I can go back to Barcelona, I'm always like, sign me up to go back. So it's a great place.
Bienvenidos a Homelands, vuestra tienda de ocio alternativo en Elche. En Homelands podréis encontrar juegos de mesa y todo tipo de coleccionables, merchandising y por supuesto juegos de cartas como Magic, One Piece, My Hero Academia, Digimon o Dragon Ball. Además de un espacio donde jugar, también disponen de torneos online a través de Discord. En la descripción de este vídeo tendréis la información y enlaces, además de un código para conseguir un 5% de descuento en todos vuestros pedidos. Y si queréis proteger vuestros coleccionables y cartas, encontraréis la mejor protección en Ultimate Guard, desde fundas tanto exteriores como interiores a deckboxes, álbumes, tapetes y también los hives, que son de diferentes tamaños donde almacenar tanto tus mazos montados como cartas sueltas. Sin duda, mi producto favorito son los boulders Return to Earth, elaborados con materiales reciclados. Ultimate Guard, patrocinador oficial de este canal.
I have a first question. This is a modern event, but I'm a pauper player, so I need to ask about the new plating.
Cranial ram.
You had to like emergency ban it, but it was supposed to come out, right? You were expecting it to be legal, or you were already thinking of banning it preventively?
Yeah, so when we make sets, especially at Common, Commons have a lot of roles to serve, right? And the biggest one is limited gameplay. Make sure the draft environment is good. And kind of the philosophy with Pauper is Pauper's an awesome format. I love Pauper. It's so much fun. But it's also way smaller compared to a lot of the other formats. The amount of people that are going to draft Modern Horizons 3 is just way larger than the number of people that are going to play Pauper. So the set should just do what it needs to do, right? It should make the cards it needs to make. It should make the cards for limited it needs to make. It should do what it wants to do for Modern. And then Pauper will adjust accordingly. So Cranial Ram, of course, is a throwback to Cranial Plating, which is a card that is banned in Pauper. We just banned all that glitters a month beforehand. And it just made a lot of sense. Now, normally, in almost any situation, we would let it ride for a couple weeks, right? We'd let the card come out. We would let people play with it, have their fun on Magic Online, then ban it, just to make 100% sure and let people enjoy it. But because we had two big events, there was a Magic Online Creator Showcase, and there was this big Paupergeddon tournament in Italy last weekend. I was actually there. It was a blast. It was awesome. 650 people playing Pauper. So cool. The way it would have played out if we didn't ban it was Paupergeddon would have happened, and then on the Monday, we would have banned the card, which just feels horrible, you know? So we're like, okay, let's just ban it in advance. And shocking, Cranial Plating is too strong, you know?
Yeah, I'm kind of happy because I like to play Grixis Affinity, and Affinity shift to this all the glitters deck, and I didn't like playing, so I'm happy that we have Affinity back as a real deck.
Well, and as I always point out after that tournament, we banned Cranial Ram, and the most played deck in the tournament was still Affinity. So, I mean, I feel like the ban was okay. You
because
know?
the refurb is kind of good.
The familiar are also quite good. For sure.
It seems definitely like the right call, and all the chatter around was like what you said, right? They just banned all the glitters. What's the point of printing this card? But I guess it's what you said. Is limited is what informs your choices. Your decisions on all of the development.
Yeah, well, and also I think it's worth calling out, we make sets years in advance, right? So sets could take a long time to make. But you could basically roughly expect that we lock a set down and can't make changes about a year out from when it releases. So if you think about a year ago, right, all that glitters was like just coming out for the first time, so we didn't even have the context of it still being too strong. So even if we did know and did want to make decisions for Pauper, which are, as I said, are things we don't really want to do with our commons and sets, it might have still just hit because we didn't know at the time, right?
Actually, Michael Myers told us that the Modern Horizon sets was finished like 1.5 a year, more or less. So we asked him if you were expecting this huge impact, this metagame shift, this huge success for the collection.
Because what we're seeing at the PT level at least is new decks in Modern, right? Not like reinvigorated archetypes or that sometimes happens. It happened with the previous Horizons. But this one is more like, completely new archetypes like Energy.
Like Nadu.
Nadu, of course, yeah,
the big Nadu thing. So what's the plan when doing that? And Michael told us, like, it's a little bit of both, right? But what's your opinion on this? What's the leading, the vision you have?
Well, I mean, first of all, Michael can speak to it way better than I can. Right? He was the set lead. He put his heart and soul into this one, did an amazing job. One of the tricky things is it's not an exact science, you know? Like, you make the set and you try to both reinvigorate some archetypes and create new archetypes. And normally what we do, and maybe Michael talked about this already, is you look at archetypes that have been a little under the radar or haven't quite had enough tools to succeed and give them some more stuff. Eldrazi is a good example, right? So Eldrazi have been at one point there was, of course, Eldrazi Summer, which was crazy.
Everyone remembers.
Yeah, everyone remembers that. But since then, since those bannings, they have not really been that strong, right? It's like, okay, well, they're clearly close. Let's give them a couple more cards. Ugin's Labyrinth, some nice big top-end creatures, that kind of thing. Maybe that'll go somewhere, right? And so you try and do some of that reinvigoration. You try and create some new things that'll help those archetypes out, some things that'll slot into existing archetypes. But ultimately, it is not a precise science, right? You just kind of make your best guess. You do a lot of play testing, of course. But ultimately, even with our best play testing, and I'm so proud of the team. They're very good at what they do. It is still 50 people in a room play testing versus 30 million Magic players, So we're very outnumbered. So we do what we can, and then we kind of see where the chips fall a little bit sometimes.
Sure.
And it's been really fun watching the Pro Tour this weekend because there's some stuff we expected and some stuff we didn't expect as much,
Yeah.
So
We were talking with Michael that the set is, I think we can consider it a success for us as a modern set. We would say we have replaced lightning bolt with a new lightning bolt, the energy lightning bolt.
Galvanic Discharge, very good. Yeah,
Galvanic Discharge is actually a really good card. Lightning bolt is actually just more of a sideboard card now, which is kind of strange. But we have the energy archetype. Eldrazi are back again. We are seeing these decks at the top of the Pro Tour actually. So I think you should be happy with the set.
Yeah. I would like to know what. So this is a different set, right? This is not a normal standard set release. We all know nowadays there's a lot of releases and people talk about. But how is different to design this? How does it fit in a calendar year normally, which I imagine is quite full at the development level. But what's the difference? What's the difference, like in philosophy, in procedure, or is just more of the same and but the cards are better?
Well, so some things are the same, some things are different, right? So the things that are the bones that make a good Magic set, a lot of the same philosophies are here, right? So a lot of the skeleton work we do to build out a set, hey, we're going to want about this many creatures, etc., like all that's similar. But where Modern Horizons differs quite a bit are two major things that are pretty obvious but really important. The first is we can use mechanics from anywhere. We're not beholden to any mechanics in particular. So whatever we want to use, we can just put it in, right?
Like Carmen tweeted about that. Yeah. He can just take the mechanics he wants. And
right. And normally in a set, that's not so much on the table, right? I can't be like, well, I'm going to make one proliferate card or whatever. Here we go. But in this set, we can do whatever, which gives you whatever tools you need to solve whatever problems you need. And also lets you make some funny cards, too, which is great. And the second one, of course, is just the power level targeted at Modern. Standard, I love Standard. It's a wonderful format, but the power level is meant to be weaker than Modern. Modern is higher power level, so you have to make cards to match. And players have kind of got used to that by now, right? You expect with Modern Horizons, higher power level, more unique mechanics, and even a higher power limited format as well. And those are two very different things that go in. The other really different one is with Standard, because Standard is 3 years long, we have an idea of what's going to be good in Standard, but it's shifting so much it's harder to know. Modern tends to stay static more. So people, the archetypes don't totally shift, except for when Modern Horizon sets comes out, I guess. But otherwise, they don't totally shift. So we know what we're targeting. We know what's out there. We know we can be a little more precise. But still, at the end of the day, it's hard to be for sure.
This is kind of the joke. Like Standard rotates every 3 years, and Modern rotates every year when the new Modern Horizon sets comes out, right? So we talk about Modern, about the card developing and this. Were you expecting like energy to be one of the popular archetypes instead of the Eldrazi can be considered a popular archetype because they are doing well during the PT, but for me the huge surprise was energy. Like I wasn't expecting energy to be
it was going
something.
to be more like a limited mechanic. I didn't expect it to jump into Modern because we've already had an energy set and it didn't jump into Modern. It was a standard dominance, but it didn't quite make the bridge. And I thought this was going to be more like a limited gimmick, but here we are. Everybody's playing energy.
That's also one of my favorites when you're like, it's not going to be good enough. And then it is good enough. You're like, oh, wow, I guess it is good. And we always feel proud then because it's like, okay, we got it just right. I know a card we talked about for a long time was the 1U, you get 2 energy, and then you can spend energy to counter a spell unless they pay that much. It was Mana Leak for a long time, right? We debated, 3 energy versus 2 energy, 3 energy versus 2 energy. We ended up on the side of 2 energy just to, as we're trying to fine-tune this thing just right. And it turns out that deck didn't need the extra help, right? It was good enough without it. But Energy was a deck I know the team was trying to make better and make work with Modern Horizons 3. Once again, you're never totally sure, but that was the thing that they put a lot of energy into. And, Michael Majors can speak more to that, of course, but that was one of the things they were specifically trying to hit. That deck, the Eldrazi deck, a couple other strategies are all things they were pushing for.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Sure. Do you have like a favorite card or a favorite theme or archetype inside the collection, inside the set?
Ooh.
Or your pet card, whatever.
Yeah, something.
So me personally, I love all the new cards. They're great. But one thing I personally really enjoy are all of the old reprints that come back in with Modern Horizons.
Oh, yeah,
right?
we haven't talked about that. Because that's something you can also do.
Right.
You bring back a lot of cards.
And, as the power level of Modern grows, you can bring back cards that are like, okay, well, at one point this would have been too wild, but now
they're perfectly fine.
It's totally fine. And so it's really fun to see what cards are put in there. So even cards like Shrieking Drake, which is a simple combo common. I think about this card a lot. It's like a very old school card. It's not going to break anything in Modern, but it's really cool to get to just see that in a pack and be like, okay, if I want to build some janky, casual, like loop stuff back and forth deck, you can. It's pretty cool. But in terms of new cards, it's one of my, it's a busted card that's based on, but Recurring Nightmare was a card I've always enjoyed playing in Limited.
Michael told us the same.
So the new Nightmare, the Energy Nightmare here is like pretty strong and really bananas. If you draft that thing in Limited, you start looping stuff, it is so hard to lose.
I did once.
How do you pronounce the name?
Cthulhian Nightmare? I don't know. I don't know.
I don't have a clue.
Don't ask me. Don't ask me.
Okay. That's pretty great. I'm out of stuff.
It's like trying to order things to be able to ask.
No, it's just so cool because we focus a lot here in competitive play and everything. But all the work you guys do behind the scenes is what allows everything to happen, right? So getting the opportunity to know about the development is so refreshing. And let's go to a part of the old cards you said. What are cards that you think could have been there but are not there? Or you have let's bring this one but it didn't fit, or the power level is still not high enough, or what are because we have also seen what you said, like play on the cards, right? Like the Nightmare, even like the Birthing Ritual that is
I like that one.
Yeah, I really enjoy the name callbacks. That's also very cool. But what are some cards that you miss that maybe there would have been a risky bet, or that there wasn't room for them or whatever?
You're talking about like reprint cards?
Yeah, reprint.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that happens more often is when we look at cards that we want to reprint, like, great, we'll reprint this into Modern, and we try it out, we're like, oh, this card is actually bad now, So, because one thing we try not to do is reprint cards into a format that are really nostalgic, that then turn out to be bad. The example I always like to use is Nantuko Shade. So back in the day, in Odyssey block, and back in that standard era, Nantuko Shade was like sick. It was like this mono black control deck. It was so hard to defeat. And then we put Nantuko Shade in like a core set, and no one played it. The card was just bad. So I know with Modern Horizons 3, a card people were very excited about was Psychotog. Oh, we could finally put Psychotog back, and it's finally time.
It will be unplayable. Probably.
And then it turns out that it's horrible. So actually, Psychic Frog is based on Psychotog. Psychic Frog actually is quite good and quite good enough, right? So you're able to do some new spins on that. But it's a lot more often it goes the other way, where it's like, oh, this is a nostalgic old card that isn't quite strong enough to get there.
We actually saw the Psychic Frog yesterday in a Vengevine deck.
Yeah, in a Vengevine.
In the
also,
PG.
Yuta Takahashi is playing it, which is always amazing.
Yeah, he's actually trying to play Psychotog, but with the new frog,
basically,
I mean, I'm a Psychotog fan. I've always loved Psychotog, And in Legacy, I think Psychic Frog is showing up quite a bit. So that's kind of the thing you see out even more often. It's like, oh, we tried this out. It wasn't quite good enough.
We're updating it.
We're updating it a little bit.
Yeah, we've seen that with unban sometimes. Like, they unban a card, and it's like, oh, suddenly it's unplayable. And it was banned 6 months ago or whatever.
Yeah,
but I understand that.
Like a Bloodbraid Elf, right?
Yeah,
it's legal now, and no one plays it. And it should.
Peter Blossom, White Nakata, a lot of cards.
I mean, we've talked. I mean, certainly a card that comes up all the time too that's on the ban list is Umezawa's Jite, right? Like, it seems like maybe Modern has moved past the point of that being too much of a problem. So maybe someday you'll see a riff on that, or even that showing up as something in here.
Yeah,
well,
actually,
the new Jite, right?
Yeah, the Lost Jite.
The Lost Jite, and the actual Stoneforge Mystic, which was so strong, and now it's just another card.
Well, at least it's such for Shuko, So
find Shuko. Of course, the most powerful thing you could possibly find.
Yeah, no, but it's very cool because people talk about unbans all the time, and it's more like what you say, like, try to bring something that because it's nostalgic, but then if it's not going to see play, it's probably hurtful, right?
Right. I mean, people get so excited when their favorite card comes back because everyone loves having their memories. They love being like, oh, yes, back in my day, this was awesome. And those memories are great.
I'm happy every time I open one.
Yeah, but then when it comes back and you're like, I'm finally going to play my favorite card again, you're like, oh, my card is bad. I can't play it. That feels kind of horrible, So Because some things have moved around. Like Counterspell, for example, it's a card that is still incredibly strong and very nostalgic. Lightning Bolt, same deal, although maybe Gavin is kind of kicking that out a little bit.
Yeah.
So letting people play with those powerful spells are great. We know for the first many years of Magic, the creatures were bad. And so reprinting creatures is usually early creatures is usually a place where there's not going to hit.
So is there a reprint that you are never actually thinking of doing, like for example Brainstorm? In Modern?
Yeah, I think Brainstorm, that's actually a perfect example. I think Brainstorm would be too much.
There was a lot of talk about Brainstorm.
Yeah.
I think Force of Will is also similar. Like Force of Will and Brainstorm, those are legacy cards. Those live in legacy.
And they're like very iconic, right, from that format.
Yeah.
Like very defining.
Yeah, they're very defining for legacy. Yeah. And Modern's got other stuff to do there, but I feel like Brainstorm is what defines legacy.
Yeah.
Like that card existing is the definition of legacy.
Yep.
And honestly, Brainstorm is probably too strong in legacy, except for the fact that it is so defining. So this is why we've kept it around for so long.
It was banned at the point, but I understand it's like the soul of the format. This is what makes legacy be legacy. So.
Right, and so I think we'll probably not add it to Modern, both because it'd be very strong in Modern, but also because we want to keep legacy having its own distinction.
Sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, people were like, well, maybe they just print Force of Will and Brainstorm, and you have legacy without dual lands and without reserve list, and that's it. But I mean, formats exist for a reason, right? People love them. People, what you say, they love playing nostalgic stuff. Legacy tends to be the place for that thing. And people still play Legacy with the same deck. There are a lot of new powerful cards, but they choose to ignore it because it's what they want to do.
Yep.
Right. I mean, cards like Reanimate as well. Like Reanimate is like we talked about it for a while, and ended up going with Persist, right, in Modern Horizons 2. Yeah. Still got plenty of play, right?
Yep.
But a little bit weaker. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we will be here asking questions all day, but I think that this is like the phrase for the day. The Germans are waiting because they want to interview you too. So thanks a lot, Gavin, for being like some minutes here with us and for all this information, especially about not reprinting Brainstorm because this is something in Spain we've been talking a lot.
Yeah, it was all of the chatter.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll say too to all the Spanish Magic players out there, I love Spain. Magic in Spain is always awesome. I love visiting. Being there for Barcelona for MagicCon last year was incredible, and I can't wait to come back and play with you all soon. So thank you all so much for watching and keep playing Magic.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Gavin.
All right, thank you. Cheers.